Hello everyone, welcome back to another Ubuntu engineering update. If you haven't been to one of these before, we do them every 2 weeks, and the purpose is to give the community a look at where we've been focusing our efforts, where the development has been going, and what we have left to do on our road to Ubuntu 14.10, the utopic unicorn. If you are not watching this on ubuntuonair.com, you should go over to that page instead, because we have the embedded video plus an embedded IRC window. In that IRC channel, we're going to be taking questions from any of you watching and answering them as best we can while we're here on the air. So you can ask questions, like I said, in that chat room anytime. If you start them with the word question in all caps, I'll get a nice highlight on that so that I don't lose it. Make sure you get your questions in early. Often, if people wait until the last minute, we've already actually stopped the broadcast because there's a minute or two delay between when we record the video and when you see it. So don't wait until the last minute to ask your questions. Ask them as they occur to you, and we will answer them as soon as we can. With me today, I've got Alan, who's been working on the Core Apps projects. I have Benjamin, who's new to these broadcasts, and he's been working on the Ubuntu SDK. We've got Lucas, who's been our release manager for the phone images. Anyone who follows him on Google Plus has been getting his regular updates on our image promotions or blockers. And then we've got Ollie, who's in charge of the desktop development work. So I will go ahead and start it off with Alan again. Alan, go ahead.
I hope you can hear me okay. I'm not using my usual microphone, but they're built-in one. So let me know if you can't hear me. I'll assume you can by that silence. So an update for Core Apps. So in general, we've got a lot better translation support across the Core Apps, and this is something the translations that are done for the localized versions of all the Core Apps is done via Launchpad, and we always welcome new contributors to translations, especially for locales where there's a significant gap in translations and there may be a small team to spread the load. I'll paste a link into the IRC, the nice stats page that David Planella hosts and updates periodically, I think once a day or so. It's not live updated, but it gives you an idea of which languages are up to date, and then you can follow the links and go through and update translations. It's really easy to do, and it doesn't take long for you to get from low down in the ranking in terms of how many translations you have up to the top of the list. In the UK, we went from 30th in that league table to up in the top 5 within the space of a day, and it was just a concerted effort by a few people to get the translations done. It's really worthwhile doing. So I just wanted to mention that in general. Some specific updates. The Reminders app, which is our note-taking app, which synchronizes with Evernote, the online note-taking service, now points to the production servers. Previously, it pointed to the Evernote sandbox, and now we point to the production server. So if you've already got an Evernote account and you install the Reminders app, you just sign in. It'll take you through the sign-in process. You sign into your Evernote account, and you can see all your existing notes and edit your notes and create new notes and all that good funky stuff. So we'd appreciate more testing with that, because obviously people who are existing users of Evernote will have maybe tens or hundreds of notes in their Evernote library, and we'd appreciate some testing of those real-world scenarios of lots of notes. We also had some UI fixes to remind us to fix some problems when attaching photos to notes. But other than that, Reminders is pretty stable at the moment, and like I say, we'd recommend people try testing it. The Music app have been working on adding new list item support. So you might not have noticed this, but when you've got a list of items in some of the apps, specifically the Contacts app, you can slide the list item either way. So a contact in your list of contacts, you can slide either way, and if you slide it one way, you can delete. If you slide the other way, you might be able to do something else. And that's a new feature in the Ubuntu UI toolkit, and we're implementing that in the Music app. That's nearly finished, but in doing that, we've uncovered some bugs elsewhere. So that's currently being worked on and should land soon. In addition to those bugs, the community music app developers have been uncovering some other irritating bugs in the media scanner service, which is the service that runs on the phone and notices when you've got music or videos or pictures and gets the metadata out of them and provides that to applications. And they've been uncovering some bugs in the media scanner service and working closely with the media scanner developers to get those fixed. It's been really great to see members of the community working closely with members of the Canonical Foundation's team to get bugs like that fixed. It's really quite a pleasure. There's been some UI cleanup in the music app, playlist functionality, bug fixing, and we're also going to get looking further out towards the end of August. We're going to get a redesign of the music app. So the way the music app looks right now is what it will be for our initial release, the release to manufacturer, the image that goes to handset manufacturers. But coming towards the end of August, we're going to get a new design. That won't be implemented straight away. It will take a little bit of time for that to be iterated over. But if any of you are interested in helping out, I'm sure the music app developers who've been working very, very hard will appreciate some additional help when that comes around towards the end of August. Moving on to the calendar, we've had a few improvements to the translatable strings, so it means that you don't get, if you've got your phone set to French, you don't get English words in the middle of your calendar erroneously. Working on bugs in event handling as well. So, for example, creating an event in the calendar would seemingly send the event to the wrong calendar or a random calendar. That's been fixed. We also had a problem where adding multiple guests to events in the calendar was problematic. That's now been fixed as well. And the calendar developers are currently working with the toolkit developers to identify and fix an issue with the date picker. So when you choose tap on a date or a time, there's a problem with the date picker showing up, which is the barrel where you scroll through month, day, year. That thing is a bit broken, and so they're working on fixing that. Moving on to the clock, lots of things have changed in the clock. Now I'm talking here about the new clock app, which is the clock reboot, which will come to replace the existing clock that's on the phone. There's been work to implement the world clock user interface. There's been settings options to allow the user to change the system time from within the clock, so you don't have to go off to system settings to change that. The clock also remembers your user settings in U1DB, which is quite cool. So, for example, if you choose to have the phone set in analog mode, so you get the hands moving around rather than the digital display, it will remember that for next time. We've got a welcome setting to control the alarm clock sounds and the duration, importantly, because at the moment when the alarm goes off, any of you who've sat in on a hangout with anyone using an Ubuntu phone may have heard a very long running alarm sound, which gets quite irritating after a while. So that's being fixed. That's good. Loads of other UI improvements to bring the clock reboot up to the design specification that was presented by the Canonical design team. But that's moving forward, and that'll be ready for RTM later this month. Had to check the calendar to see what month we're in. Weather app. This is another one that will be getting a new design. And the design is going to start working on that next week. That design work hasn't started yet. It starts next week. And so the weather app developers will start working on that once that design is worked out. And the weather developers are working closely with the Canonical design team on that. Finally, there's one quite cool thing I want to show, and it's probably best illustrated with a screenshot. A fun thing that we're doing. You may have seen a blog post showing this, which is Cool Old Terminal. Hopefully you can see my screenshot here of Cool Old Terminal. Well, we're bringing the same thing to the phone. So if you like your terminals to look like something from the past, then you can switch on these options and have an old cool terminal just like you can on the desktop. And I think that's all of my updates for apps.
All right. Thank you, Alan. If anyone has any questions about these core apps, go ahead and ask them now. We do have one question here from Diazalon. He's asking, are there any ideas for a stock Ubuntu phone that ships with Ubuntu, or a retry of the funding for Ubuntu Edge? So if you haven't heard, we have 2 OEM partners that we're working with to get Ubuntu phones onto the market. That is BQ out of Spain and Meizu out of China. And Alan was talking just a minute ago about getting these apps ready for RTM. That's our release to manufacturer deadline. That's when we have to give these OEM partners a copy of the Ubuntu phone software that they can use to start bringing up a production line of phones using it. So that's coming later this month, towards the end of this month. Will be the handoff to them, and then there'll be some time while they get it up and running on their hardware and tweak it to make sure that it's optimized and add whatever customizations they want. So sometime after that, you'll start to see these become available to purchase with Ubuntu on them by default. So as of right now, there's no plans to redo an Edge-style funding campaign. What's nice to see, though, is that a lot of the technology we wanted to add to the Edge is starting to come to various phones on the market now. So a lot of that you'll have eventually, just not as soon as you would have if the funding had succeeded. DS McGuire is asking, when exactly is the RTM? Yeah, I know it's the end of the month. I don't remember what the actual day is, but it's sometime in that last week of the month.
August 28th.
All right. Thank you, Ollie. August 28th, which means we don't have a whole lot of time to finish up what we need to finish up. So if you've talked to anybody working on this recently, you've probably noticed that they're quite busy these days. All right. We'll move along now to Benjamin, who's joined the SDK team relatively recently. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Hey. Thanks. So yeah, since I work mostly on the tools side, I'm going to start with that. So we are slowly getting to the point where we have most of the features we need available. So now we start to work heavily on polishing the user experience, making the user experience much better, easier. So for example, the next release, or the last release that was just released a few days ago, has a new wizard available that will help you to set up your kits and your basically the backend that helps you to compile and create apps and run apps, set up your emulators and stuff. We also removed the control of 12 feature, the stuff when the old way to start applications on your phone. So we now have a consistent way of doing that over all different project types. So yeah, that's much better now. What else? Yeah, we have, of course, lots of bug fixes, and currently I'm working on starting the emulator automatically when it's not on and you start to run your project. So that's going to be cool as well. Should land soon. And on the toolkit side, yeah, there were some discussions going on with the settings API. So we had our own homegrown way of doing that, but there was coming a upstream version up. So there were some discussions in the last weeks, and the final decision now is that we are going to use the upstream solution. So the Qt Labs settings API will be the way to go from now on. And yeah, there were some improvements on the Ubuntu shape. So that's basically one of the core components we use. So it will give the whole UI stuff a nice boost. Yeah, and of course some visual tweaks and stuff that, yeah, just to work out the design more. Anything else than that? I guess that's all from what I can say about, because yeah, I work mostly at the tools, as I said. And yeah, I think we will see lots of cool stuff in the future.
All right, thanks, Benjamin. And we had Zoltan on. We had a community Q&A broadcast yesterday, also on ubuntuonair.com, where we had Zoltan on as a guest, and he gave quite a bit of the backstory on the SDK itself and what they've been working on. So if you're curious about that, you can find it on the Ubuntu on Air YouTube channel. Benjamin, I had a question for you. Are there any plans for using image-based updates to keep things like the emulator and the change root up to date?
Yeah, not at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that needs to be worked out more, how we are going to do that in the future. But right now, you have to either recreate your emulator. Yeah, and the change roots also. You can update the change roots, it's better to recreate them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did experience the new setup wizard yesterday. I took some screenshots on that. I'm going to post on Google Plus later. But it looks really nice, and that's certainly going to help new developers get started.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, we've got a couple more questions. Diazalon asks, are you trying to get the phones to act like the Edge, or will they be more like a phone? I gather you mean, is it going to have the desktop convergence on it to begin with? And the answer to that is, unfortunately, no, that's not going to be ready in time. And I'm not sure that the hardware for these phones is really going to be up to the task of doing desktop-style workloads anyway. That's still being worked on, though. Unity 8 is getting some desktop focus now to start adding features that'll make it ready for this. So hopefully within the next couple of releases, we'll start to see that become available, and we'll start to see phones with hardware that's capable of giving you a nice experience of that. He also asked if we're aiming for high or low-end markets. And I don't know the exact specs of the phones that are coming out, but I think they're mid to high-end phones. I don't think we're targeting real low-end phones. All right, Chloe Wolfie Girl asks, what would you like to get done with Ubuntu Touch before the RTM? And what would be the plan if you can't get it all done? That sounds like a good question for everybody on here. Is there anything you guys specifically want to get done by RTM?
I think Ollie's got a special list of things that he wants to get done by RTM.
Thanks for passing the ball.
Yeah.
We have a long list of things we want to get done. Let's see. Payments, for example, is something that I'm taking care of personally. I would like you to spend your money onto our product, on content that you can buy there, for example. So it's working. It's really rough right now, but obviously it's a really critical feature for a commercial product. And then there's a couple of things in the Unity area, high level, that we're tracking. So just recently we landed Dash as an app. That's something that enables a lot of other features in Unity. For example, payments. So I have a long list. The good thing is we have moved from being time box driven, like the distribution itself is, to an agile way. We have some sort of rolling release through the way how we produce those images, and so that allows us to constantly assess with the customers, with the community, with our stakeholders where we are, and then make changes to the plan accordingly. Sorry, that's my phone. We'll discuss this question when and if we get there on August 28th. That's really, we have a release process that allows us to have a high quality image, which is the promoted one, and we have a level of confidence for features that are in dev proposed, and that's a good base to discuss this with our stakeholders.
All right. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that? If not, I'm going to save the rest of the questions till the end just to make sure we have time for everyone to give their updates. So we'll move on now to Lucas.
Okay, thanks. So from the landing team side, currently, as some of you might know already from the announcement that we made on the phone mailing list, we're currently in the so-called TrainCon Zero mode. For those who don't know, it's a very funny name. It's inspired by DEFCON. So actually, it means that we as landing team and the whole set of landers that are actually landing things to Ubuntu Touch through the CA train, we're more or less stopping the line by just like only pushing through things that are low regression or are only bug fixes, so that we can have more time and lower the risk of introducing new regressions. Because of the Linux that we're doing. So we're actually, normally the rule is that we have to, after 7 days, business days have passed from the last image promotion, we automatically switch to TrainCon 0. Right now we switched it on manually, so to say, because we noticed that the test quality currently that's seen on the dashboard is was getting really bad because of some of the regressions that we had. Most of those regressions aren't real user visible regressions because we had many issues that were related to the infrastructure testing. But because that happens, we can miss some obvious regressions that happen because we don't have full test results currently. So this is being worked on. We suspect that we will be off from TrainCon in a really maybe up to 1 day, because things are really going nicely since all the blockers have people assigned, fixes are coming in. We even found the root cause of one of the infrastructure issues with the testing infra that we had, and we might have a fix for that even. So we suspect that it will be we'll be able to promote an image pretty soon, because it's been already, I guess, almost 6 business days since last promotion, so it was anyway very close to TrainCon 0. And we wanted to have a promoted image before we actually do all the branching for RTM that should happen around Friday. So we would like to have a nice baseline that we can start off from. So we're trying to release an image because we have quite a lot of really nice things piled up that we would like to release to the users. Like, for instance, there's the Qt Compositor landing that has landed, I think, a week ago, and it fixes a lot of some of the annoying bugs as well that we had in the last promoted image. Besides, of course, improving performance and overall for the images as well. So this and very many other things like the Ubuntu UI toolkit, landings, and a big list. So hopefully, being as much optimistic as possible, we're targeting tomorrow as a promotion for the Devil channel. So we are also, because of how things are looking, we're also discussing on modifying the TrainCon 0 rules, because right now what basically TrainCon 0 means is that we as a landing team, we more or less stop the line for landings, or just proceed carefully by asking QA to perform additional tests for every landing that has some regression potential in it, to make sure that nothing goes. Any new regression goes through. So, but this, we noticed that it's not entirely 100% practical. So we were actually thinking about also involving upstreams to designate people that would be like TrainCon 0 all the time, like working on resolving the blockers throughout the whole TrainCon 0 period. So this is still under discussion. There's a document for that, and we're trying to get upstreams involved in fixing blockers as much as we can even now by direct pings, but that would be nice to have it formalized for the future. So, but besides that, there has been a lot of movement in the CA train world, because it seems that we'll still stick with CA train for a little bit. So most of the work that we had done recently that also affected how we pushed for fixing blockers, sadly, but we, for instance, enabled, prepared the CA train to work also when we actually start the Ubuntu RTM, so to say, distribution pocket for RTM needs. Because right now, well, CA train was built around the idea that there's just the Ubuntu archive, there's nothing else. There are PPAs, there's the Ubuntu archive, and now we also added the features that not only you can release to Ubuntu, you can release to different distributions as you wish. So we spent some time for testing that in a safe environment so that we don't break anything, the existing landings in the same time. So we should be ready for RTM regarding our tools of CA train. We also made many changes to the CA train itself throughout the month, that improving some of the safety checks for landers. We did some improvements of the whole spreadsheet front end, so to say. Robert did a great job, for instance, removing some unnecessary fields in the spreadsheet, that now the spreadsheet is a bit cleaner than it was before. And we also tried to move out as many things from the spreadsheet itself, so that, like, landers right now, they only have to use the spreadsheet to add a new landing, but everything else is being done through the so-called CA train dashboard. That's a very neat web UI that allows landers to easily build their packages and for the landing team to actually release those packages later on. So you can also use the dashboard for nifty things, since Robert actually worked on that. Like, for instance, looking at you can also filter out the results, I mean the silos, according to what projects are currently building in silos, or according to landers. That's a very nifty tool. So all of those, like everything that I mentioned here, is also has links in our daily landing emails. So just open up the Ubuntu phone mailing list archive, get the first landing team daily email that you can find, and just grab the links from there. We also added a so-called issues dashboard. It's still in early development stages because of some that we had to stop working on that for a while because the RTM work that we had to do. It's a dashboard that actually helps out filtering some of the Launchpad bugs that we considered currently blockers for promotion. So you can open up the dashboard and see what's the current list of bugs that we consider blockers, what's the status of those, if there are merges already present in the bug report, or if when the last comment was done, what's the priority of it. And also things as counting the actual time, how much time has passed since non-user visible issue is present on the image. So it's a nifty tool to check the status of well, related to promotions. So basically, if the blocker section in this dashboard is empty, then it means that most probably we'll have a promotion pretty soon, because it means that we have nothing standing in our way to get an image released.
Lucas, is this dashboard something that you can post a link to in the IRC so that people can watch
Sure.
this coming in?
Sure, let me just find the IRC channel. Okay, here it is. Yeah, so it's, as I said, it's still in early development. That's why it's actually this is the issues dashboard, and the CA dashboard is CA train dashboard is here. As I mentioned, those two are didn't have HTTP in it, but those two are also present on in our email. their landing emails, so you can always easily have access to those if you forget about the link. We're also using the same dashboard, also generating the bug list that we're pasting into the landing email. So it's all more or less automated right now. But yes, you can just like browse through the blockers section there and see that currently we have quite a lot of promotion blockers. But do not fear, most of them are actually either have fixes in silos or at least in branches. So we should be releasing a new image pretty soon, I guess. And I guess that's more or less it from the landing team side.
All right. Thank you, Lucas. Anyone has any questions on that, go ahead and ask them. Again, we will come back and go through all of the questions after all of the updates are done. All right, so we'll move on now to Ollie.
Okay. So, where to start? Let's start with team, which is the Unity services. Let's find my records. They have been really busy on push notifications, as I said last time we talked. We do have the push notification API and guides up on the Ubuntu developer websites. So you can go there if you're an app developer and see how push notifications integrate on the client, so on the phone directly. And there's some work to be done there, as well as how to potentially set up an app server that would integrate with our push notification infrastructure. That app server, I think, is pretty nifty. That's all done through Choo. There's a template out there, and you can just use our other products and deploy that and have an instance up and running within a few minutes. Let me just share that with you. So that's on IRC, the URL. Besides that, we actually, on Friday, I was totally stoked. I saw the first live appearance of push notifications, quote unquote, because as I said the last time, the current ones that we see for the big providers like Facebook and Gmail and Twitter, they're actually pull notifications, but they're there. So there's you don't need a PPA. You don't just get the stock double proposed image, update Gmail. That's what I had to do on Friday, the Gmail app, and off you go. And once you've added your accounts to the system, you got notifications of incoming messages. So that was pretty cool and saved my weekend. Took off some stress there. Let me see what else is going on in that team. So SDK integration is done. So if you're an app developer, there's work you can do, new features that you could integrate into your applications. Let's see. Something that Benjamin might have mentioned that I'm just excited to see is there was improvements in Ubuntu Shapes going on. Ubuntu Shapes is the shape you see in the dash, the rounded edges and everything. And as that appears quite a bit throughout the user interface, it has some impact in performance, and the SDK team has done some work there to improve the performance there and make the flat dash more fluid. I haven't seen it myself. I need to verify that today, but that's something I'm really excited about for this week. On the Unity API side, as I mentioned earlier, they have been working on payments. So we have the first flow of payments that was successful. So money and goods were exchanged and appeared on the phone. So that's all good. There's a couple of bugs and rough edges that we need to go through, and a couple of prerequisites that needed to land. For example, Dash as an app. Dash as an app in itself, you might have seen posts from maybe Popey and others, allows you to do a right edge swipe to get in your app switcher. And then within the app switcher, once it's in the cascaded mode, you can actually do up and down swipes to stop an application. So that's not working in the currently promoted image, but in the double proposed channel. So that's a pretty cool user visible feature. Then locking in the greeter, so PIN and password locking, has landed. And most of what I'm saying is really targeting the double proposed image, as we haven't promoted anything in recently. So we are locking down the security story from the Unity side. So that's one of the big requirements, obviously. Let's see. There's more work going on regarding what we call dash overview, which will allow you to configure the dash a little bit more, where you can favorite or unfavorite scopes and have access to other settings. So I hope that this will be out by the end of this week, latest when we talk next time in 2 weeks. And then on Mir, lots of technical details that have gone in. The biggest one that made my day on Monday, so I had a good day on Friday and on Monday, was GTK support has landed in Mir. So the first rudimentary version of it, I should say. So in essence, you can bring up a GTK application on Unity 8. There's couple of issues, for example, like submenus aren't working. Anything that has to do with like sub-windowing, that's not implemented yet. It's not a bug, it's a missing feature at this stage that we're aware of and that we're working on. But in the sense of rapid releases and iterations and being agile, the team went ahead and released that in the current Mir release. So that's really good, because having that toolkit support in Mir, like native toolkit support, will just take away a lot of the problems and pains that people fear will happen in once we switch to Unity 8 as the default desktop. So I think that's it in terms of like exciting and user visible features from my side.
Thanks, Ollie. You mentioned the push notifications and the new the polling that we're doing for things like Facebook and Twitter. And one interesting feature of this, well, interesting to me anyway, is the fact that these are actually web apps, and yet you're still able to get notifications from them when they're not running, and you click on that and it'll pull it up in the actual web app, which is a pretty neat feature. It gives the web apps a level of integration that they haven't previously had. And another thing that I noticed in recent promoted images is that the scopes now have quite a bit of customization in them. That's something that's landed now on the Unity API side, right?
Correct. There's a whole set of customization options that we want to provide to scope authors and commercial authors, where branding is important, and so that has landed, and that's an ongoing effort. However, we'll add more and more features. We have a whole long list that Savik and the team are working through, and so yep, that's a good one too. Thank you.
All right. And could you give us an update on the status of the Unity 8 ISOs? Are those still being built regularly?
Yes, as far as I know. But Will, our engineering manager for desktop, is currently traveling, so I'm not quite up to speed of what's going on there. But I haven't heard of any reason why we wouldn't build those regularly.
Okay, so that's Will Cook. I'll try and get him on the next one of these broadcasts to get another update from him once he's done traveling. All right, I've got a few updates from the community side of things. We've had quite a few discussions around the next Ubuntu Online Summit dates. We've gone back and forth a couple of times, and now we've settled on November the 12th through the 14th. If you don't know what the Ubuntu Online Summit is, it's a combination of the previous online UDS that we've been doing, as well as some more community and user-focused tracks that have previously been in things like Ubuntu Open Week and Ubuntu User Days. So it's going to be a good mix of developer topics and user topics and community topics. We'll start calling for session ideas for that soon and getting the schedule in place for that, hopefully well ahead of time. But we have now settled on those dates. We also have been talking about the Ubuntu Global Jam, which we do every cycle. We pick a weekend and encourage people to get together in person where possible to hack on Ubuntu or contribute to a community project or anything that they want to do towards Ubuntu. It's just a time for people to get together and work together in the same physical location, which is something we don't get to do very often. So the tentative dates for that right now are September the 12th through the 14th. In the next month or two, the community team will start doing some more promotion around that and do some workshops to help people set up their own Global Jam events in their community. We've been working on improving the documentation on developer.ubuntu.com. We've specifically been working lately on the scopes, resources, and documentations to improve that so that we can start promoting scope development as much as we have been promoting app development. And Benjamin and the SDK team have been working really hard on getting that developer story into shape, and we've been testing that quite a bit. So in the near future, you'll start seeing quite a bit more about scopes from us. We're expanding the API website to support more of that kind of documentation. I've been working on that. I think I'm the only one working on that anymore. If anyone wants to help me with it, it's a Python Django web app. I'm always looking for extra help developing that and adding new features. And then Daniel Holbach on the community team has been putting together material for an Ubuntu app developer school, where we're going to be providing material for people who want to host their own app developer training events in their community or at local conferences or things like that. So we've got the first draft of that material coming together, and we're going to dog food it ourselves at a couple of locations, and then we'll start bringing in people and training them to be app developer trainers in their own community. All right, that's all the updates that we have, so we'll go back through and answer some questions now. Let's see, we left off at DS McGuire. He says, the core apps look and act nothing like anything else on the desktop. Will we see them change to use things like the global menus? Alan, do you want to take that one?
I don't know is the short answer.
So I know
that's kind of dependent upon our designs for Unity 8 on the desktop and not necessarily application specific. That's more of an Ollie question than a core apps question, in my opinion.
For global menus, it is, because that's actually a little bit of both, because the current UI toolkit and API doesn't really have anything for menus. We've had actions in the past which map to HUD entries, which could possibly be used. But as far as wider desktop look and feel, I know there's been some work to add keyboard shortcuts and keyboard navigation to some of the core apps. Have any of them started doing any kind of UI layout convergence, Alan? Okay. I know some of our apps have. We've had like
the weather
Karma Machine does it, Flashback. If anyone's watched Nicolesh, who's Nick90 here in IRC, any of his demos showing off Flashback, it has some really slick convergence for switching between desktop, tablet, and phone screen sizes. So there's some of that coming. I think, as Alan said, a lot of that's going to depend on getting some design for actual desktop use cases of these apps. But the technology is all there to support it. All right. Zebok asks, are there any plans to add chat support into the messaging app? making use of online accounts, much like empathy on the desktop. Does anyone have anything they can say on that? I know that the messaging app itself uses telepathy in the background, so I think the foundation is there to support that kind of thing.
I think we might need Bill on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be a good one to have. I'll try and get him in. I think he's had a scheduling conflict lately. So, if not him, I may get somebody else who can give us an update on that. All right, DS McGuire asks, what happened to the Friends app? The Friends app suffered from API call limitations from both Facebook and Twitter, I think. The token that you get is per app, and it's limited to how many calls you can make. So when a lot of people started using Friends, they quickly hit that API use limit and started breaking for everybody. So that's the services themselves have really kind of killed that. So that's been taken out of the device images now. We've got the Facebook and Twitter web apps that you can use for those services still. DS McGuire asks, are there any design updates? If you don't know of any, where should I go to find out? So the design team has a blog, I think it's design.canonical.com, where they post updates on the work that they've been doing. They'll post videos or screenshots or mock-ups. A couple of weeks ago on the community team Q&A, we had Giovanni from the design team who gave us some video demos of the designs they've been working on for the web browser and for the clock reboot. So you can go back on the Ubuntu Online or Ubuntu On Air channel on YouTube and find those videos and watch those updates. All right, Chloe Wolfgirl asks, after watching Linux Unplugged, it seems a lot of people are still worried about the desktop since phone seems to be the focus. Do you have any words that could help people who are worrying about desktop Ubuntu and the future of the desktop before and after Unity 8's landing? Ollie, I think that one's for you.
Okay, I just muted myself. Was that Chloe's?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good question. So we have 1404 out, which is an LTS that has the old code base and is covered for years and years. I think 5 years is our current LTS support coverage. So that's geared towards commercial customers or anybody who doesn't just want to deal with a lot of change there. We're currently targeting 1604 for Unity 8 as the default desktop. So 1604, I'm sort of trying to answer the question backwards, right? So 1604 will be an LTS again. We'll have another multi-year support commitment. And as a company trying to be profitable, it would be not smart for us to deliver something in 1604 that would incur a lot of maintenance cost over years and years. Plus, it would not be smart to put something in there that would not satisfy users' requirements. So we're currently, in order to walk along this migration path between 1404 and 1604, we're doing various efforts right now. So generally, as you've seen in the updates, Mir and Unity 8 is progressing well. We're adding browser. We have Chromium as a browser running on Mir, if not Unity 8. We're enabling toolkits and so on and so forth. So from a technical perspective, we're getting more and more ready as we progress. So for 1410, we'll have quite some support in the distribution already that you can switch back and forth through the optional session, the Unity 8 session. But that's still built on top of the regular Ubuntu stack. There's X still in the mix, just on the image, and all the other quote-unquote legacy components that we carry, that we have to carry in 14.10. So in order to get a really good view of how the future will look like, the desktop team is building that image that Mike was referring to earlier, the Ubuntu Next image, which doesn't have the components that we don't need anymore. That's giving us a good view of how well things are integrating, where we have side effects and dependencies that we haven't caught so far. And it's just really a clean benchmark for us to see, where we will be for 16.04. So I'm currently working with Will on a roadmap to really lay out, the deployment of Unity 8 up to 16.04. I think we have to admit, as an upstream, as a Unity upstream, or as a company even, that the introduction of Unity 7 had its issues, and I think looking back at what we learned from the introduction of Unity 7, we can draw some conclusions and improvements of how to do better, how to satisfy user requirements better when doing that for Unity 8. So most obviously, we're planning for a lot of user testing before we really turn the switch and make it a default, to make sure that there are no outstanding issues. And that goes back to the question we had earlier, for example, like, do we have a design theme like global menus available in Unity 8? How does this integrate with the desktop, with our current design approach? The chosen design language that we're using on Ubuntu Touch. And so there's a couple of questions that the design team is working on. We'll hope that early in 15.04 we'll have those answered and can implement those. And then we'll use 15.04 as sort of the first baseline measurement for user testing. And then that gives us basically another year to address those issues. So that's an explanation of our migration path from 14.04 with Unity 7 up to 16.04 with Unity 8. So the message you should take away is, like, we're trying to be very diligent on the technical enablement side, as well as making sure that customers can actually use it.
And I would just add to that, on even beyond just Unity 8, a lot of the work that's going into the phone images right now is going to come to the desktop and bring a lot of benefit to desktop users also. For example, click packaging and application isolation will make it a lot easier for people to deliver third-party apps to Ubuntu users. Already, the process of getting apps through the store and approved using this new technology is far and above what we had on the desktop before. Things like image-based updates can really provide a lot of benefit to desktop users. You can get a small single download to update your entire system, and you'll make sure that the system itself is always nice and stable, regardless of what third-party apps and stuff you install. And then background services like the Content Hub and the Media Hub are going to improve the desktop experience and make desktop apps behave better together and interact better together. So I think a lot of that, the focus, even though it's only come to the phone and tablet images right now, is going to make its way to the desktop, and it's really going to change a lot of things for the better on the desktop as well. All right, we got 5 minutes left, and one more very, very important question. Has Poppy's webcam given up nowadays?
Well, I'm on the internal one on my laptop today, so I don't have the problem that my horrible external one has. I quite like it. It's quirky, it's disco, it's funky. I like it. I'm keeping it.
Hold on now. You've had a working webcam all this time, and you kept using the broken one anyway?
Yeah. Why not?
We love it.
Yeah. Keeps you awake.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap up this session. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. Thank you guys for coming on and giving us some updates. We will be back again in 2 weeks, hopefully with some cloud and desktop guys back, since they'll be done with their sprints by then. So be sure to join us again in 2 weeks. Same time, same channel, same website. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.